Well, I was taking a break from my regular videos to do this one in regards to my Health Watch series, and this came out in the paper today in my local Gazette mail, and it was a very interesting article, and it goes back in history, um, telling us about how our ancestors lived and how we live today. The title of the this article is called "The Shape We're In." What happened? How, why, and when did West Virginia pack on the pounds? Okay, and it goes. It shows this picture here of back. I think this was taken back in the 30s. But it says between 1900 and 1930, visiting writers describe West Virginians as lean with high endurance. People worked physically hard, farming, timbering, mining, hunting, and gardening, keeping their family fed. Whatever calories that they took in were likely to be burned. A fat mountaineer is a curiosity, writer Horace Kephart wrote in 1913. Okay, now today, this is more than 30 years ago, and today that's a whole lot different from what we see. Um, as you can see by this photo, this is just totally different. The reason is that our lifestyles have changed. Now, it's not only affected West Virginia as a whole, but it's actually affected our whole nation, really, as to the overweight people, why they become overweight, as to their lifestyle. That things started to change around the 1980s. Well, West Virginia and the rest of the country were overtaken by a perfect storm of less physical jobs, processed food, soda pop. Soda pop is really, really bad. Fast food, which is really worse. And reduced physical education and hours of video games and texting. Okay, does that really sound familiar? And actually, it's quite disturbing. I see, when I go out, I see a lot of people, young and old, texting a lot, using their mobile phones, playing with their mobile phones or whatever they do with their mobile phones. And it's just like they're being mesmerized or even hypnotized by them sometimes. To me, it's kind of, disturbing in a way. I'm going to get a lot of hate comments on that, but yeah, it's just something that we need to pay attention to, as to where our health is going, and obesity is a big problem. I'm going to say that I'm obese, but like I said, I had discussed earlier about my medical problem that I had with hypothyroidism, which is, hard for me to try to lose weight, but I do. I try to eat the right things, and I do stay away from fast foods. I don't drink soda pop. Now, I do have a hankering, okay? That's a West Virginia word, hankering, for a really good draft root beer. No, that's non-alcoholic because I'm not a drinker, okay? Um, but that's about the only thing that I have, a thing for is, but other than that, no other soda pop. Because actually, it's just like on a once in a while basis. But that's probably not that good either. I'm just being honest about it, okay? And, but I love chai tea because it's good for you with all the spices. I don't want to get into all, my likes and things. That's not the purpose of this video. And I think that's just basically it. But those are my guilty pleasures, and I'm sure everyone has them. But anyway, yeah, I try to eat right. Try to eat mostly fruits and vegetables and whole grains, the good kind. because you want to stay away from processed foods. The article goes into when the writers said here that when they had started, well, actually, it was a local person who had helped started a Lincoln County summer camp for low income kids. And when they first started, they had skinny campers. And they were always trying, well, they said that they were always trying to find ways to get food into them. Then in the early 90s, they started getting heavier campers. Okay, and so now they were sure to how they can what they can make of that. Why people have become heavier, and by the mid 90s, almost all their campers were heavy. And that's another thing I get into when I talk about campers. One of my favorite activities when I get a chance is to go camping. You know, I love the outdoors. I love camping, and I like mountain biking and all those activities. And Rick McDowell, was watching the national obesity epidemic happen, and it began in the mid 1980s, about the time when those heavy campers were born. I'm sure it was more complicated than this, but convenient food and fast food appeared in Lincoln County in the early 90s. Okay, so when you have like these fast food, uh, restaurants and shops coming into an area, this is what happens. It's the result. Pizza came first. Now, when people have the choice of McDonald's or cooking at home, it's McDonald's. Okay, because it's fast and easy, right? Then along came No Child Left Behind, the federal education law. Teachers were pressured to give kids ready for achievement tests, and schools cut back on physical education. Okay, McDonald said, and they also stopped offering home economic classes. That's bad. You know, it's real important to learn home economics. I often wonder why they had home economics when I went to school. Now I know, because it's really important to learn how to cook, prepare foods, even sew your own clothes, and well, you got the idea of that. And kids don't learn to cook anymore, and they need to. And many parents also quit cooking, which is a bad idea. And when they tried to raise money for the camping, he suggested a potluck dinner, and people said that wouldn't work, and people don't cook anymore. So they picked up stuff. So it was either at the convenience store or the fast food. Sometimes when you stop for gas at a convenience store, you could watch people picking up what they presume breakfast, like cookies, chips, wrapped donut sticks. And do you know that the consequences of eating those foods and the chemical ingredients that you find in those foods as well? And who knows what they're taking into their bodies, because those chemicals can cause your weight to really shoot up too. And who really knows what is happening to your body when you ingest these foods. So it's really something to think about. And West Virginia's always been heavy, and is it part of our culture? Well, when you do look back, it's not really historically accurate, and it's the exact opposite of that. Because when you do look back, far back in history, in the early 1900s, as early as 1900, you can look into the history of the Appalachian Mountains, and the terms that were used were like lean, slab-sided. I don't think I've heard that one. I've lived here most of my life. And stomachless, to describe the people that they met there in the Appalachians. And the prototypical mountaineer was called long, lean, lanky, and high endurance. It says a fat mountaineer is a curiosity, said Kephart, the writer, in 1913, and the hill folk were even seemed affected by a slender type of comeliness to them. That's what he says. And 100 years ago, life was hard and punishing for most people, and food was a full-time job. That meant that you had to go out looking for it. You didn't go to the convenience store then. Today, doctors urge us to get our bodies moving. It says 100 years ago, nobody needed to urge people to be active. If they weren't active, they didn't eat. And what the Bible says, it says, if you don't work, you don't eat. And that is really true. And now they tell us not to eat processed foods because we won't have a heart attack. Processed foods didn't exist back then, and they burned up every calorie they ate. Until the 1980s, few West Virginians are overweight in archival photos. In the 1960s and 70s, during the Poverty War, Americans got used to seeing pictures of bone-thin West Virginians on the evening news. Only 13.4% of Americans were obese then. Nobody was measuring obesity in West Virginia, and there seemed no need to do so. Now, 1 in 3 West Virginians are obese, at a high risk of diabetes, heart attack, stroke, and other conditions their ancestors didn't worry about at all. And the price is huge. In 2009, the future cost of obesity health care economist Ken Thorpe reported that obesity-related diseases cost West Virginia $668 million in 2008. That number will rise to $2.4 billion by 2018. And he said if nothing changes at all. So it's really all up to us. In the late 1970s, Dr. Bob Walker worked primary care doctor in the rural mountainous area of Lincoln County. Families tended to pass a diet down through their generations, and historically, our diets were geared to hard work. Work caused people to burn a lot of calories: timbering, farm work, coal mining, labor of different kinds. Rural people often got up early and ate an enormous meal, which has to do with biscuits, gravy, eggs, bacon. You got the idea. High carbonate, high fat lunches in their pails they took with them to sustain them through the day, because they burned all of this up, you see. And so our diet has defined historical roots. The problem is that this kind of jobs that have disappeared, we haven't changed the way we ate either. So now we take in a lot of calories and fat that doesn't get burned off. In the mid-1980s, Americans, including West Virginians, started gaining weight. On the national obesity chart, the rate stays steady until the late 80s, and the line zooms upward. And toward 1980 and 2000, national obesity doubled. And why that the nationwide scientists and researchers say that in the 1980s, Americans were overtaken by a perfect storm of processed foods, food marketing, soda pop, and extra calories, and eating out. Fast foods, portion sizes kept growing. Microwave meals, that isn't good either. And at the same time, Americans became less active. 26% of the Americans and 32% of West Virginians now get no exercise at all off the job. Okay, I'm at the end, and there's a second page, but I guess I could go ahead and continue it on in the next one. So if you want to meet me over there, I'll see you over there. Okay, take care, you guys. Bye.